About a few weeks ago, we started a new topic, or we started a new series called Choices. And if you remember well, my brother Benjamin Ali spoke to us about choosing contentment. A week after that, my other brother, Dikole, spoke to us about choosing whom to serve. And just last week, Dikole was speaking to us about choosing joy. So today I have a very difficult challenge of speaking to you about choosing purity. This is a very difficult topic for me. Generally I feel like it's easy to address it when I address the men only, or it's easy to address it when I address the kids or address the parents now. To talk about it on pulpit is quite challenging. Imagine going back home and they ask you what the food is saying, same food you are speaking about sex. It's pretty hard. It's pretty weird, so it's a very challenging topic for me to address this morning, so please bear with me. I'm also a student in this topic because I can't say that my battle for purity is always great. I can't say that I win every battle. At times I lose. So I don't speak to you like a teacher or a professor or a master, but I speak to you as a student. And then I chose that I will not preach, but instead I will share a lesson. So I hope that I'll be able to share some few words with you. If you can turn our Bible to the book of Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5, we'll read verse 8. I was about to say all the words will come up there, but I see that my font is a little bit on the other side. But let me read it for you. It says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God." Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. You see, for me, like I was saying, this is a challenging topic for me. Apart from my personal battle, I don't know if you've realized, but maybe if you put Jake here or Papa Verena here, you'll realize that I'm actually black. It doesn't always show. But I am black, and as a black person, in our nation, it is very difficult for us to address the topic that has to do sex. It's something we want to put in the corner and we just want to leave it there. But my challenge about that is that often we abandon our responsibility to help one another. We abandon our responsibility to mold the future generation. We abandon our responsibility to teach our children, and then we get shocked. Another thing that I have a challenge with silence in this area is that it promotes abuse happening in families. My wife has been a doctor, has been taking care of kids for quite some time. Even before she started her formal training, she's been working in the department for some time. And she started training about 4 years ago. She's actually coming to the conclusion of her training to become a pediatrician. So please pray for her. She has quite difficult exams this coming week. She's about 6 exams in 3 days. So please keep her in your prayers that she gets to complete. But I remember the number of times when my wife comes home and I ask her, "How was your day today?" And she says to me, "I had a sad case." And this happened many times. And I say, "What happened?" And she says to me, "I was examining this little girl, and as I'm examining her, I'm realizing that somebody has entered her." And then she will try to call the mother aside. Obviously, after speaking to her seniors to confirm, she will try to call the mother aside and try to say, "Hey, this is what's happening." That's what we were told. That in defense to her children, a mother will stop a knife by holding it on the blade side. That's what we were told. But many times when they do that, the mother will raise her voice, she will raise her defense, she will abandon her kids, and she will try to oppose any possibility of that happening, even when evidence is right there. A lot of times because of the silence, the culture that we are built to be quiet about things we shouldn't be quiet about. Brothers and sisters, we cannot join that. We should be able to address these topics even from the pulpit. They are uncomfortable, but we need to be able to address them. And the other challenge that I've seen a couple of times is that, when coming to this, sometimes as Christians, because the world obsesses so much about sex, as Christians we have the tendency to take the extreme end. We have the tendency to make sexual sins to look as if they are worse than all other sins. The problem about that is those who battle with them battle in silence, and those affect families. Those destroy marriages. Those destroy children's dreams. We need to address this. We cannot keep quiet. We cannot keep quiet. The Bible says there in Matthew 5, as we're reading it, "Blessed are the pure in heart." You can go to the next slide. Blessed are the pure in heart, because the purity issue of the heart. But today, because I know a lot of times when we say purity, we accelerate to sexual purity. But I just want to broaden your mind a little bit this morning, amen? I just want to broaden your mind a little bit on this morning. So I just want to went to the definition of purity. The Greek word that is translated purity, in that very verse, it means free from admixture or adhesion of anything that soils, that adulterate, or that corrupt. The Oxford Dictionary also gives this definition. It says, it is free from adulteration or contamination. So when we are talking about purity, we mean you are free from being soiled, from being corrupted, from being contaminated. And for us, the standard of cleanliness is God. So what would purity really mean? A pure heart is a heart that is not corrupted by the world. That's it. That's it. A pure heart is a heart that is not contaminated, that is not corrupted, that is not soiled, that is not adulterated by the world. And you may feel like, okay, maybe I don't have issues with purity or sexual purity, but the thing is, your speech may be corrupted by the world. The way you think may be corrupted by the world. The way you do business may be corrupted by the world. The way you view beauty and the way you express beauty may be corrupted by the world. Your relationship with money may be corrupted and contaminated by the world. So can I really say that there's nobody who struggles with purity? Proverbs 20 verse 9 says, it asks this question, Proverbs 20 verse 9. Sorry that the fonts are so small. It says, who can say, I have kept my heart pure, I am clean and without sin? Who can say that? Because one way or the other, when you think about it, there is always an area, a field in your life where the patterns of this world has corrupted you, where the patterns of this world has contaminated you. There's always an area where you find yourself patterns like, man, why do I think like the world? Why am I taking pleasure like the world? The moment you see that area in your life, you have found your impurity, the one you must fight against. So in as much as I may share a lot of examples that to do with sexual impurity, but I would love to say to you, when you have found yours, apply the same principles to it. Purity is the matter of the heart, above all else. It is the matter of the heart. When David sinned with Bathsheba in Psalm 51 verse 10, this is what he says to God. He says in Psalm 51 verse 10, he says, create in me a pure heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me. Now, David lusted. He slept with the married woman, the woman he's not married to. He tried to deceive the husband, and then eventually killed the husband. So there are many things he did. But you can see that David does not zoom into the actions. He zooms it in what matters the most. The heart. He says to God, create in me a pure heart, O God. For David understands that it is from the heart. In Mark 7, Jesus says the same. In Mark 7:21, he's speaking to the Jews. And this is what Jesus says to the Jews. He says, for it is from within, out of a person's heart, that evil thoughts come. Sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lewdness, envy, slander, arrogance, and so on. And says, all these evil come from inside and defiles a person. It is from the heart. When the heart is pure, the actions will be pure. Amen? When the heart is pure, the action is pure. The best way I understand the heart is, a heart is like a container. Whatever you put in it is what's going to come out of it. The heart doesn't perform miracles. You're not going to put salty water and think that you will draw clean water from it. You need to put clean water for you to get clean water out of the heart. So it is like those tanks you normally have in the offices where you put water. So they normally have the inlet where you put water, and then they have an outlet where you open to get water. So our actions, our thoughts, our words, our attitude, our expression, body language, all of those, our behaviors, they are nothing but the outlet of what's inside the heart. Most of the time, people spend time trying to control what's coming out of the inlet, out of the outlet, and completely not keeping guard of what goes into the heart. So choosing purity is about choosing wisely what goes to your heart. It's keeping an eye of what enters your heart. Because if it's impurity that enters your heart, it does not matter who you are. Impurity is what's going to come out. And it will show itself in actions, in thoughts, in attitude, and in behavior. One of the scripture that has always been my stand is Proverbs 4:23. It's Proverbs 4:23. It says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. If there's one thing we need to guard, it's our heart. Because everything else we do flows from it. We have the knowledge how to gather our money and put insurance for our cars and all of these things. But the Bible says the most important thing that we must guard, the one thing that can lead us to heaven or to hell, is our heart. As it says, guard it above all else. Because everything else we do flows from it. So how do we guard it? My first point this morning is guard your speech. Guard your speech. You're under Proverbs 44, Proverbs 4, that's what will be. It goes to 24. It says, okay, let me start at 23. It says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And then it goes to verse 24. It says, keep your mouth free of perversity. Keep corrupt talk far from your lips. Brothers and sisters, what we say affects our heart. You may be thinking I'm just cracking a joke. You may be thinking I'm just trying to be relevant to the people I'm with. But what you are saying affects your heart. No wonder Philippians chapter 2, verse 14 to 15. Philippians chapter 2, verse 14 to 15 says, do everything without grumbling or arguing, so that you may become blameless and pure. The other version used to say, do everything without complaining, so that you may be blameless and pure. You see, a complainer sees negative in everything. There's nothing you can do to please a complainer. A complainer sees negative in everything. But the Bible did say, give thanks in all circumstances. Didn't it say so? But the complainer does the opposite. Because the complainer is not positive-minded. The complainer sees negative in just everything. We are planting negativity in our hearts. Question is, if we go to your neighborhood or we go to the people you stay with and we ask them, will they say you are a complainer or you are somebody who always sees what is positive and therefore gives thanks to God? What will they say? Talk about gossipers. In Proverbs 18, verse 8. In Proverbs 18, verse 8, it says, the words of a gossip are like choice morsels. They're like choice food, but they go down to the inmost part. The victim of gossip is the one who participated. You may be thinking that the victim is the one you're gossiping about, but the victim of gossip is the one participating in it. Because gossip goes down to your heart, it corrupts your heart. There is pride in gossip. Because it's as if you're saying other people's flaws are worse than your flaws. That your mistakes are not worth noting and talking about. Only other people's mistakes and flaws are worth talking about. There is pride in gossip. Brothers and sisters, we need to be careful where we stay and where we work. We need to keep an eye on the conversation we get involved in. Because we understand that eventually they corrupt the heart. They corrupt the heart. In Ephesians 5 verse 4 it says, nor should there be obscenity, foolish talk, or coarse joking, which are out of place, but rather thanksgiving. I know with us brothers, maybe sometimes gossip is not so much, but I know in the workplace, a lot of men love to talk about women in a sexually demeaning way. The question gets to be, do we participate? The question gets to be, do people feel confident enough with such topics in front of you? Or just by seeing you already remember, not this guy, he's going to beat us, let's get going. Because brothers and sisters, silence does not build. You can say, I didn't participate. participate. But the Bible says we must say what is building. Silence does not build. We cannot allow men to devalue women in front of us and we keep quiet. That cannot be right. That cannot be right. We need to keep watch on our speech. Secondly, we need to guard our eyes. We need to guard our eyes. Going back to Proverbs 4. Obviously 23, I'm going to keep reading on 23 even if I'm going to go elsewhere because I want that even when we leave here this morning, this Proverbs is in our head. It says, above all else guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Let your eyes, this is verse 25, let your eyes look straight ahead. Fix your gaze directly before you. He says that he's guarding his eyes. He's not allowing his eyes to just wander around. He's guarding his eyes. He wants to make sure that what goes in my heart, in my eyes, because I know that I go to my heart, it must be something pure. What we watch affects our heart. It is an inlet to our heart. I don't know about you. You know, there are times when I watch, let's say, a movie that has to do with oppression or injustice, prejudice, unfairness. When I come out of that, already I'm angry. You're like, who offended you? Already I'm angry. If I come up with somebody, who meet somebody who comes and offend me with unfairness, this little bit, my response is that big. It's just disproportionate to what he has done. And you wonder, why did I overreact? What we watch affects our heart. What we watch affects our heart. You know, one of the movies I love watching, or one of the genre of movies I enjoy watching is the medieval one, meaning back in the olden days before guns. So I enjoy movies that do with swords and shields and spears. I know it's weird, but I really enjoy those a lot. So I remember first few months after we got married with my wife, and we're there watching TV, and there's this advert that is coming about this coming series, and it was new then, it was 9 years ago. We know it's well known, but back then it was new. And I see swords, I see spears, I see shields, I see dragons, I see fire, and it concludes by saying, the winter is here. Yes. They know themselves. And then I was excited. My wife knowing me, he knows, and I love these movies because they don't come out very often because they cost more, to name them. So she takes the remote. This was before ketchup. So bear with her. So she takes the remote, she scrolls down and she tries to figure out when is it gonna play, and she goes and she records the entire season. Now you don't need that ketchup, that's not for you. But back then you needed to record what you wanted to watch. So she records that. And then I missed the first 2 episodes, and then eventually came the day when we said we're gonna watch it. We are both excited. We made popcorns. I remember that Friday season. We made popcorns. We ate a bite. We go on the couch. We cuddle. We are waiting for one. Bam. And then you know what happens? The Lord tells you what you must put before you play anything. Age restriction. It says 18 SLVN. My heart never sank that deep, that fast. My heart never sank that deep, that fast. I found my wife apologizing as if she's the one who owned the script. Sorry. Because we both knew what's about to happen. So she takes the remote, she stops what is playing, she deletes the episodes that are recorded, she goes all the way, and then stops any future recording. Because my wife and I have decided that she will be my partner in guarding my eyes. So that we guard my heart. Our life, our marriage, our eternity depends on it. I know a lot of the people of Game of Thrones, they come after church to call me to order and say, but why didn't you fast forward? You don't know when these scenes come. And it's not like in the DVD days when you press skip scene. You are fast forwarding. If that person is going to be there naked, yes, it's moving fast, but he's naked. Period. Parents, are we watching what our children watch? Are we guarding what our children can watch? Or do we let them watch whatever? It doesn't matter. You know, in case you think, oh, my child is such a good person, nothing like that will happen. My wife and I one time were listening to one of the lessons. So in the States, they normally have these spiritual conferences every year. So we'll listen to the lessons there. This couple was sharing about a case that was brought before them. So what had happened is that kids camp, they figured out, they managed to find that this child had seen porn. And then the counselors, obviously, they engaged to find out what happened. It turns out that this happened at Bible talk. It happens that they were exposed by a child of a disciple. The child was at school with the phone, saw things, the friend's like, oh, we can share with you. Dropped it to the child, he came with it to the Bible talk. When the parents are busy, having their fellowship, having a good time, the kids in this corner, they're getting exposed to porn. I don't remember the age restriction, but I know when I listened to that about 6 years ago, I was shocked. Today, as we speak, the children as young as 7 and 6, they are exposed to such things. But the devil is succeeding because the parents have abandoned their position. Until the children are grown for them to watch their own heart, at that time, we're supposed to be the ones that are watching their heart. But we have abandoned our responsibility to watch. Obviously, on our TV, we put parental guidance. All my devices, they've got filters and whatever. So it is just to help me that even on days when emotionally I'm not in the right space, and spiritually not in the right place, that at least there are devices that can help me. So whatever ever happening on my phone or over there, eventually my wife will get a report every week of what was on my screen. It may look like weapons. It may feel like childish. But in the end, we know that what we see affect our hearts. And as a wife, it's not so hard to make my life in this life be great. The number one goal is to help me make it to Him. Brothers and sisters, we cannot abandon our responsibility. We cannot abandon our responsibility. Guard your thoughts. Guard your thoughts. That will be the last point of this morning. Proverbs 4, again I will start at 23 before I go to 26. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Give careful thought to the path of your feet and your steps, and be steadfast in all your ways. Our thoughts affect our actions, our path that we take. And eventually our thoughts affect our hearts. It's not just lingering in your mind. Don't think it's just an innocent thought. It makes its way to the heart. And one of the things that affect our thoughts is what we listen to. What we listen to affects our thoughts and therefore eventually affects our heart. You know, sometimes you can listen to a song and you're thinking, just an innocent song. You know, there are times when I see and I find singing songs that do make you laugh, and I'm thinking to myself, are you really sure about that? What are you feeling in your mind? What are you feeling in your heart? You know, you don't have to be allowed for something to impure to your heart. Let's get that clear. Impurity is impurity. Eventually it will make its way to your heart. We need to be careful of what we listen to. Even when we're in the office and people are talking whatever, we feel like, but I'm not participating. But you are listening into this conversation that is ungodly. Eventually, it affects your heart. The other thing that affects our thoughts is what we read. You'll find people sometimes they say, I don't know why men have to watch these movies that are out of order. By that time, they are holding a book written 50 Shades of Grey. If there are 50 Shades of Grey friends here, again, I have offended the second group. So I have a long court case. So it's not just 50 Shades of Grey, but a lot of novels. I remember reading Born Ultimatum at the time, because it's an action movie. So I'm like, maybe the action book would be on. The book is nice, but all of a sudden, then that scene comes. Then I realized that there is no difference between novel and movies. These guys, they write the same. They push the same agenda. And those who are very skillful with words, they paint the picture. Even as you are reading, you can imagine that this happened, that this happened. You need to be careful what you watch. I know it's very easy to zoom into boys and what they are watching and forget the girls and what they are reading. You're like, she's reading, so she's doing something good. Not everything written is good. They affect our thoughts. They affect our hearts. We need to keep an eye. We need to keep an eye. You know, I'm already in trouble, so let me end it with another count. I'm already in trouble with Game of Thrones. I'm already in trouble with 50 Shades of Grey people. So let me offend the third group. The gamers. You know, it was, I was reading this, and one of my favorite books called Disconnected Generation is by a Christian researcher. He does a lot of research for teens, for teenagers and for kids. So I really love to learn from that guy. His name is Josh McDowell. So in his book, he gives an account of what happened at World War II. In World War II, they realized, Americans, that not all the soldiers pulled the trigger. And then they wanted to find out, and these guys were good at practice. When they're shooting, they're hitting the bullseye. But come to the real world, they couldn't shoot. And psychologists came and tried to find out what happened. So you see, the thing is, when they're practicing, it is just a paper. In reality, it's a human life. When you are shooting a paper, you are making a hole and a dent. But a human life, you are taking life. So the heart that God has given us to be conscious, it was the one withholding them to pull the trigger. Guess what the psychologist said? Let us change the training. Let us make the training to be as real as possible. So we make the figures that look like mine. You see now, generally training, even in shooting range, it's a figure that looks like a human being. Because you need to train the mind. You need to feed the thought, feed the mind that it's okay to take life. Numb the heart so it gets used to shooting. The war psychologist goes on to say, today's games, computer games, TV games, and PlayStation, that those are actually even the perfect way to train the heart to numb it. Because those computer games, you see yourself holding a gun, the bullet is going, you see a person on the other side, yes, it's virtual, you see a person, they hit it, you see blood going. It looks real. It looks real. Therefore, it numbs the heart. You know, you can be a mother of the year because you bought your child a PlayStation and you bought them this particular game. I'm not saying all games are bad. There are awesome games out there. But the question is, are we watching what the children are playing? Because it affects the heart and it numbs the heart. One of the things that has been complained a lot about by researchers is they do research. I love thinking about research. So they do research about humans. They realize that every year, every generation, our level of empathy goes down. Yeah. One of the greatest crises we have now is our children cannot empathize. They cannot put themselves in another person's shoes and feel for them. It's going down and down and down. Why not? You have numbed them. You have numbed the heart. We've allowed it to be okay. And some of these very TV games, there is nudity everywhere in there. Some of these TV games, there is swearing everywhere. So we have said to them, don't feel like I'm entertaining myself, but what we are sending to the heart is that a human life, you can assault it as you see fit. A woman's body, you can assault it as you see fit. Somebody's honor, you can assault it as you see fit. And that's the message that goes to the thoughts, eventually goes to the heart. Brothers and sisters, we cannot be passive. We cannot be silent. We need to guard our hearts, guard each other's hearts, and guard our children's heart. To God be the glory. Amen.